Kia ora and welcome to the Silly Kiwi Millennial podcast, the first Silly Kiwi Millennial podcast of 2018. It's your boy, Scotty Mills, the South Auckland Sizzler, and I'm here with Big Cons. What's your alias for 2018, Big Cons?
Big Bonds.
Big Bonds. The double Bs.
Yeah, also.
We are here, early January 12th, 2018. We've welcomed in the new year. And we've got, you're right there, matey?
That was me.
Sorry, I'm dying.
Jesus.
And we, in keeping with the start of the new year kind of vibes, I'm not really too big on the New Year's resolutions. I just set my intentions and go about it. That would be a good place to start. Do you fuck with New Year's resolutions, Big Bones?
In a way, just because it's like a reminder, like that if you haven't been doing something that you wanted to do, to like get back onto it. But in saying that, you can start any time of the year. It doesn't need to be the new year, but it just serves as a nice reminder for me, or just like a time to take a break and reflect on, how the year went so far and things you can change or whatever. But as a prestigious time of year, it's like, yeah, this is a new year, new me. Not really into all of that.
That's a very interesting idea, because if you're taking stock throughout the year and if you're consistently checking in with your ambition, with your intent, with your goals, with what you want to achieve, doing that at a New Year's occasion, the start of a new year, doesn't really, like, the importance just decreases. Because you're kind of like taking stock consistently. And I think that's what a lot of people might not do, is that they get caught up in the day-to-day kind of grind. Life moves so fast, and they don't have time to look back on, what they've achieved, what they've accomplished, what they then want to achieve in the future as well. They just kind of go about the routine, pump out that routine, and then suddenly it's 2018. It's like, holy shit, what did I actually do? Do I need to change stuff? And that's where the resolution idea comes into it.
Yeah, I feel, if you're one of those people who is constantly reflecting throughout the year, then it is just another day for you. But, sometimes people get lost throughout the year and get sucked into things like the daily routine you talk about. So sometimes it's nice to have that reminder, just like a physical, like literal date that, hey, something's finished, something's starting again. If you haven't been checking in with yourself, now's a good time to do it.
And it's not to say that there's a right or a wrong way. It's if you don't have the opportunity, or if you don't, it's not your style to constantly check in and see how you're tracking throughout the year. At least there's a New Year's occasion and this idea of New Year's resolutions to offer some framework. Like, that New Year's resolution idea is better than nothing. It's better than just like flowing through the years and you're like, wait, where'd the last 5 years go?
Yeah, exactly. How far do you let it go before, you're like, fuck it, I'm 30.
Later bolt to the last decade.
Hard.
I heard a phrase that, like, you can definitely ponder on for a couple minutes, is the days are long but the years are short. So when you're in the moment, it's a long day, you're at work and, when am I going to clock off? Oh shit, I got to go here, I got to go here, I got to do this, and then later at night I got to do this, and then I got to wake up in the morning. Like, the idea that in the day-to-day grind, the days are just so long and the days don't exactly fly by, but then you zoom out and you're like, everyone says like, oh, where did the year go? Oh, it's, September already. So it's kind of a paradox where everyone, not complains, but everyone notes how long the days are in their occupation or whatever it is in their day-to-day life. But then they will also very quickly throw up this idea of the year going by so fast. I don't know, like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I haven't thought about it in the way, but you're exactly right. It's so many people, talk about having a long day of work, and then when it's towards the end of the year, they're like, man, this year's gone so fast. And it's just that mindset of, I guess, getting caught in the process, and not, taking a step back and realizing that you've actually made a lot of ground and shit's been accomplished, things have changed. And I guess if we didn't have years every day, like, there'd be no concept of like how short the year is, and that you never feel like time has passed, and that you've progressed from a point. You just have another long day and then another long day. At what time would you stop and be like, shit, it's been a whole year and I've actually achieved a lot? So in that sense, it's quite good to have the years and the New Year's resolution, just, as a sort of like a a memory or something, or not like memory, like a reminder that, all those long days have been worth it, because look how fast time has gone. And it's, I guess, people getting trapped in, or giving up the process too early, and realizing that, shit didn't take that long and it wasn't that hard. But it's so easy to say that once the day's ended than when you're in the midst of the day.
What's your like gut feel when someone says like, or you realize and you're like, shit, it's July already. Where'd the year go? The year flew by. Like, what's your like immediate kind of reaction or feeling in you? Are you like, oh fuck, like what am I doing? Like, where'd the year go? Do you get like down a kind of sad route, or are you strangely happy, or like what's your gut feel?
Changes from year to year. Last year, when it was July, I was ecstatic. I was like, man, I've moved to another country, I've done all these things. Whereas the next half of the year feels a lot slower, like the next 6 months. And December was a bit like, man, we made such big leaps and bounds to move to another country. And I'm sitting here, practically unemployed. And I feel like I hadn't achieved much. And it was a real sort of sour comparison between the first half of the year and the second half of the year. Like, I had a real direction and motivation in the first half, and then the second half flew by even faster, and I sort of felt a bit underachieved. But now that I look back at it, it was silly. Things have happened. You just sometimes, yeah, you mean you can't compare. Like, I can't compare moving overseas to anything else in the other half of the year. It's like that was a huge step, and nothing's going to feel that big, but there are things that you have achieved. Like, I did a teaching diploma, like to teach English as a foreign language online, and certificate and shit like that. And it's just, you get trapped when you compare shit, and then stuff will never seem the same. I mean, comparing apples and oranges and all that, it'll never be a fair contest. So you just gotta appreciate what you have done and take it for its own merit, rather than comparing it against something else. But I mean, what about you? What do you feel halfway through the year when someone's like, half the year's gone?
Well, I think if the year's flown by for you, that's because you've like been really productive. I think like you've worked hard. You've like put your head down, and you've like the best way to describe it is to use a metaphor. Like, you're running up a hill, and if you put your head down, and while you're running up the hill, then the first half of the hill like disappears, and suddenly you're halfway up the hill when you look up and you're like, yeah, I've only got X amount to go. But if you're, constantly looking up at the top of the hill, then slowly the hill starts to get, shorter and shorter and shorter. But it's much faster, like, it feels much faster if you just, like, put your head down and don't look up. And then you look up at a certain stage. Or if you're chopping a big pile of wood, and you just, like, keep chopping the pieces of wood, and never actually, like, look at the pile of wood decreasing, suddenly the next time you look at the pile of wood, half the fucking wood's gone. So I think, like, if you put your head down, like, that's the easiest way. Jeepers creepers. That's the easiest way to, make really big tasks feel much easier, is to just, like, put your head down, churn out, like, if you're doing a big fucking stack of dishes. Like, I was a kitchen hand. I'm just rolling through these metaphors straight off the top of the dome. I was a kitchen hand, and, like, there will be, like, just stacks of plates, and you just put your head down, and then suddenly, like, most of those plates are gone, just because you just got through it. Like, you just put your head down and got through it, and, like, load after load after load. So if you're like that in your day-to-day life, and you're productive each day, and you can, just churn out the days, like, day after day after day, whatever your intention is, and just, like, stay busy, then the year flies by. But if you're, for whatever reason, not very busy, you're not very productive, that's when shit gets long and it gets tedious, and it's like, that's when you don't get that feeling. So I think in a way it's positive. Like, when I hear people say that shit, like, oh, the year's flown by, it's a good opportunity to be like, yeah, it has, because I've been real productive. And if you can kind of find a balance between doing that and, each day taking stock and being proud of what you've done, and, being thankful for each day, and setting your intention for the next day, and living in the moment, if you can find the balance between that and keeping your head down and just, like, being productive, I think that's in a way, that's the holy grail.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I think, I totally agree with that. Like, that just, I mean, like a work ethic almost. Like, not almost, like a work ethic. And, like, people who think, look too far up the hill and are just like, shit, I'm never going to climb that. Whereas if you just start walking, and then you look behind you and then you realize how far you've walked, the next part doesn't seem as hard. It's that that constant reminder to yourself that, you're actually making progress, and, you're not worrying about, the mountain. You're just worrying about the step in front of you, which is, it's amazing how far you can get when you just worry about taking the next step rather than, hitting the finish line. It's a real self-motivating mindset to have.
That's the thing, is, like, no one wants another year to go by. No one's, like, excited, like, unless you've got, like, and unless you're like, next in 2020 I'm going to do this and this and this, then you might want the years to fly by. But no one's, like, happy that we are moving into a new year. No one's, like, even if you've had a shit year, everyone judges on your age, so it's like, no one's happy that you're getting older. No one's happy that it's like, those last 3 years have flown by and now I'm here. It's like, oh shit, another year. Another year's gone by. Which is a weird thought, because for me personally, my intention is to get better and be in a better position with each year. So in my mind, I'm thinking each year, as long as I do what I should do, which again comes back to zooming in on a day-to-day basis, setting your intention for the day, and doing what you want to achieve for that day. As long as you're taking care of each day, then you're putting yourself in a position as you get older to keep being in better and better and better positions, where I think a lot of people, especially young people, they're worried about cracking it when you're 20. So no one thinks about like what is life going to be when you're 35. Are you going to be the man when you're 35, or are you going to be like settling down? My goal, my ambition is to be the fucking man when I'm 35, 40. I'm just going to be a boss. I'm going to be like, not literally be a boss, but I'm going to be like, having fun. That's like, are you going to be having fun when you're 40 years old, or are you going to be like a miserable, like settled down sort of character?
Well, if that's what makes you happy,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's that thing where, I guess it's a millennial thing too, that sort of now and entitled mentality that, shit, I need it, why can't I have this now? And then some people get it, and they're like well established before they're 30. And then it's just like, but what happens after that? Like, if you feel like you've already reached the top somewhere, how do you motivate yourself to do something else? Like, to jump off the mountain and start somewhere else? Is it easy for you? Or do you want to give up being on top of this mountain? Or are you going to stay there even though you're not enjoying it because you enjoyed the process rather than actually being at the top? I don't know, it's a dilemma, I guess, for people who peak too early.
The old peaking too early. And I think there's a lot of like peaking too early. There's a lot of short-term benefits. So there's a lot of short-term benefit to having all the nice gears. There's a lot of short-term benefit to, even like going back to like buying the house and all that stuff. All that stuff, if you're doing that when you're in your early 20s, there's a short-term, feel-good factor about whatever it is. Whereas if you're taking a more long-term approach and you're like, I want to be living the best life I can when I'm 35 and 40, and I want to be doing a lot of the stuff that people, stereotypical people in their 20s are doing, then you make different decisions along the way. And that's like, when I think about like professional sportsmen, like as someone who's never been capable of being a professional sportsman or sportswoman, an athlete, like you kind of get it, when you realize that you're never going to play professional sports, it's kind of sad. Like, you're like, fuck, like, I want to do that. Like, they live the best life. But then again, like, their gig is kind of over typically at 30 years old. Whereas for a lot of other people, their gig, their shtick, their passion, whatever they're doing, is starting when they're 30 years old. So it's kind of like a reverse situation where you're at your athletic peak in your mid-20s, you're earning the big bucks in the NRL, and then when you're 30, 35 years, while a lot of other people are moving into their prime years, you're winding down. You're moving into a more quieter lifestyle. So in a way, I'm not like, for many other reasons, I'm not like that envious anymore. Like, once I realized that I want to be building into my best phase of my life with each decade, then it's like, well, to some extent, like they're the best thing they're going to do in life stops when they're 30 years old, which is interesting way of looking at it.
Yeah, well, that part, I mean, there's, everyone's different. There's other fulfilling things that they could find. But, like, yeah, I guess what a core chunk of their being was about ends at that time. And I guess that's why there's so many, like, programs in place and, like, policies to help, athletes in various different sports like think about life beyond the sport, because they'll run, so many people run into that what you just talked about, that hitting 30, being past, like physically past your best, and then having, what do you do now, what do I do with my life, so, but which applies to other people too, like committing to one thing and then becoming, I guess, redundant by the time you're 30, and or not having much more to offer to that role or that position, or not even wanting to do it. What's the next step for them? Like, where do you think people go from that? I don't know. What do you think?
It's for a lot of the athletes, I think where they get into a spot of bother is that they put all their efforts into being the best athlete they can be, whereas like if you adopt a mindset of I want to be the best me, then if you're operating with that mindset, I want to be the best me, then you can roll through different career choices, under the umbrella of everything you're doing is to create a better version of you. Whereas if your sole objective is to, as a human, is to like master this athletic craft, then that's your intention. And once that's finished, then it's like, well, I guess I got to start something else. Whereas like that starting point is, for them, that starting point would have been when they were like 5 or 10 years old, starting their sporting careers. And now they're 30 years old and they're in a very different position, but they're starting that from that same point. And I think for the like average Joe, the career orientated person, the business, whatever, job person, you can definitely switch up your careers and roll through different careers, and there's no rule on you have to be with this career for this long. But as long as you set your intention to be the best version of you, fuck, who cares what your career is? Like, because you're operating on a system that is solely designed for you to be the best person that you can be at any given time. And that's always about bettering yourself. So it's always about learning more things and acquiring different skills. So like, in some ways, the person who's had a 40-year career as a mechanic or a receptionist or a farmer or a lawyer, that's cool. But is that as interesting as someone who's taken many different career paths and has a whole varied bag of tricks, like a vast range of skills that they've learned from each different career? Like, it's a similar position where if you've done a job for so long, then you're in the same position as the person who dedicated 20 years of their life to being the best athlete that they can be, and now they don't have any other skills. Whereas my feeling is that like people who keep switching their careers in society, they're kind of like looked down upon, like, oh, you can't hold on to one career. Where it's like, no, I just keep challenging myself to like pick up something new. I keep learning is my zest of life, sort of thing, which I don't know about you, but like all the people you hear about, athletes, business people, whatever person it is who has achieved X in life, they always like talk it up about learning and always learning new things. So that's kind of important to me.
Excuse me. Yeah, I think it's a personal thing too. Like, I was thinking about it when I started doing this warehousing job at DHL. I was just like, there's some people who've been there for, decades, and they're just gonna be here. And it's like, if you get your fulfillment outside of the job, like you work purely out of necessity to pay the bills and do whatever, and if you get enough fulfillment, you have hobbies, you do other things that you fulfill all those other, quench those other thirsts in your life, like creatively or whatever, then, there's some people that really want to keep the job separate from their life. Like, this job is just a thing for me to do, whereas I still have my life where I'm learning and I'm doing all these other things, which I think is fine. It's cool. It's just the same as someone who wants a career that changes and they can learn different skills from. It's not any better or worse than someone who works a job because it's stable, they know what it is, and then all the extra things they want from life they get outside of the job. And I think maybe it's a generational thing too, that we want the best of both worlds often, that we, want a career where we challenge ourselves and learn new things. And it's sort of like the life work balance is sort of intertwined, rather than older generations where, I've set aside this part for work and then this part for what I enjoy about life. And, so for them, there's nothing wrong with them working the same job for 40 years. They get paid and they've never wanted anything more than that. And all the other skills and knowledge and like learning and traveling and all that's come from outside of the job. So I think there's always more than one way to get fulfillment out of your life. It's really a personal thing, whether you like to make your work do that for you, or you're happy to just work for work's sake and then find that fulfillment elsewhere. Do you sort of agree with that, or?
Yeah, but one of the keys to life is finding some level of fulfillment in whatever you do. So if for you for example, you've got a job that might be viewed as mundane. You've got a job that might be viewed as, what can I get out of this? And then you've got a job that's slightly more exciting. It's a more like leisure activity where you're helping people, for example. Or in this case, you're scaring the shit out of people. But and then on top of that, you've got all your personal interests, your personal hobbies, your personal crafts, whatever you want to do, that give you fulfillment in the traditional sense. Whereas you can definitely get fulfillment from the relationships you have at a warehouse job. Like you can get a sense of fulfillment because you're working a pretty mundane job, long hours, and it's like, what are you made of as a human? Like, you've put yourself in a situation where you might not be working the ideal job, but you're doing it and you're learning about yourself, learning about finding some fulfillment, building relationships, all sorts of stuff. So not everyone, of course, there's a massive generalization, but not everyone's in a position to pick and choose. But whatever it is, I think if you can find a level of fulfillment, and if you can't find the fulfillment, at least let's turn your attention towards finding some fulfillment. So whatever shitty job you've got, if you can what is one thing about that job that is cool, it makes you happy, challenges you or you learn from, I think that's pretty damn cool. Whatever the job is, you've kind of hacked a bit of life by finding some level of fulfillment. And for some people, that might solely be the people they work with. It might not be anything about the job, but when they go to work each day, they're hanging out with people who make them laugh. So I think that's a fucking gem right there, is just find some fulfillment in whatever job you've got and whatever pursuit you're doing.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, if you're miserable and you don't have to do it, then don't do it. Find something, that will inspire you, or that you can take a positive and be like, shit's not so bad.
it's just not so bad indeed. And like, bro, if you want to go, should we go all in on just like motivation shit to start the year?
Yeah, why
We'll
not,
just
man?
we'll just
New
get
year,
we'll
new
just get
me.
the New Year, New Me podcast delivered to you by some very fucking silly Kiwi millennials. That's my starting point. Is like whatever you're doing this year, like whatever stage of your life you're at. If you're in school, if you're chasing something bigger, if you're just like some guy or girl don't know what the fuck you're doing in life, whatever you are doing, find some fulfillment in it. Like, what is it that satisfies you or doesn't satisfy you? As long as you're aware and can like base it on you fulfillment, that's a good place to start, and it's a good place to like start this year off from.
Shit, sorry, there's a lot of going on outside. Um, scaffolding thing down the scaffolding across the street. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, whatever you're doing right now, you need to take a step back and why am I doing this? What are the good things about this that make me want to keep doing it? And what are the things I want to change? It's sort of like a time to just reflect, like, do I need to be doing it? Is there something I can change to make it more enjoyable? Or like, it's more like a time to focus personally, like inward, like, And if you're really not enjoying any of that, then do you need to do it? Is there something else, that you can do instead, or is there some time, I got a good quote to wrap up the podcast with, but I'll save that.
Store that shit up, boy. That flows into the whatever you're doing, you need to have a why. Like, a lot of people, I think, they worry about what and how. So they worry about like, oh, I want to do this, but how? Like, how are we going to do it? We need, like, they exert so much energy on how it's going to happen, or even like what it is that's going to happen. And a better way of operating is to find out what you're doing it for. Like, why is that your intention? Why is that your objective? Why do you want to be positive in 2018? Why are you working in a warehouse? Well, you're working in a warehouse to provide for your family. So then suddenly everything you're doing at that job has a reason for why you're doing it. And like, so many people manifest that in, I'm doing it for my children. I'm doing it for my nana. I'm doing it to create a better life for me. But it's so much easier when you've got a reason why. So like and that isn't restricted to like what you want to do, whether you want to aim for the stars and be Jacinda Ardern, whether you want to be Bowden Barrett, whether you want to be, Jason Taumalolo, whether you want to be Lord, or if you are working in a shop down the road. Whatever level of the chart you're aiming for, if you've got a why, it doesn't matter. Like, no one cares what you're doing. They can like see that you're doing it for a reason. That's why you can never begrudge someone for having a shitty job, because there's always a reason why they have a shitty job. Because they have to provide for their family and they don't have another choice, or they have to pay off their student loan and they don't have another choice. That is their why. But so many people get caught up on all the other factors of the equation instead of like nailing down why they are doing what they're doing, and then you get the ball rolling from that point.
Yo, yeah, it's I don't really know. Yeah, no, it is. It's kind of, yeah. You can't really you can't judge anyone about whatever they're doing. There's a reason they're doing it, and so nothing really comes out of judging other people about what they do, because why are you judging people in the first place? Is there something that you're not happy about in your life, or something you're insecure about? So I think it's the first step is always to look into yourself first and personally about why you're doing what you're doing, or why you're not doing what you say you want to do. Like, oh yeah, I want to get fit, I want to lose weight this year or something. Why, why are you doing it? Because it's for this, like, I've seen like family members. No, I haven't seen a lot of family members. Yeah, I need to lose weight. I'm setting a goal to lose weight, but it's like, why are you doing it? Just for the sake of losing it? Because what usually happens is they put it back on. And for one of my family members that I know, for him it was, I'm losing weight now. Was actually the side effect. What he wanted to do was make a rep like football team, and so that became his why rather than just losing weight. Losing weight didn't really have a why for him. It was just cool, something to do. But now that he's got a why, as in, I need to lose weight because I need to make this football team, and in order to do that, I need to lose some weight and get fit. And it's just, it all sort of comes together. It creates like a chain effect. So it's really important that whatever you decide to do has a why, and it has like a reason. Like, doing stuff for the sake of it is really hard to do and easy to get demotivated about, and just being like, oh fuck it, who cares, I'll try again later. It's like, it's much easier to motivate yourself if you have a reason, a why, something else that depends on it. So yeah, that's all really I have to say about that.
And if you're aiming for, like, if you're starting a business, like if your objective in 2018 is to start a business or start this project, or do this, or even something like, I want to donate such and such to such and such 5 times a year. And then if you base whatever that decision is on your why, you're going to learn a lot about yourself as well, because like, why do you want to start this business? Oh, so I can get rich. Okay, like, that's your why. And then like, along your journey, you might change that why, because you might realize that it's not what you want. So it's like, or like, if you're trying to be charitable, why are you trying to be charitable? Oh, I'm trying to be charitable so I can express my charity on Instagram. Like, instead of perhaps, I want to be charitable so I can feel better about myself and my contribution to this world. But like, again, the key thing is why, and then from that, like, I don't like, fuck, you can be charitable, you can start a business, like, happy days, as long as you're being productive in something. But you're going to learn quickly, or perhaps slowly, the type of person you really are inside if you set that why from the beginning, because along that journey, your why may change, and it may dictate how you change as a human being, or it may change influenced from how you've changed as a human being. But as long as you've got that why, you've kind of got a compass on who you are, what you believe in, what you believe is important, and you can translate that compass into other areas of life as well.
Yeah, and the why, can change as often as you change your mind. That'll be part of your development as a person and growth. You having the same why isn't always realistic, and often the why could be achieved, if it's a goal, like, I want to make this team or something, and you make it, and then you need to update it. The moment you stop updating it, if it's been achieved or it's not what you want to do anymore, then, all that momentum's lost. So it's important to, question yourself, throughout the entire process. Why am I doing this? And if that, if it's still the same reason if that's still enough reason to keep going the way you are, doing doing it, doing it the way you are, then keep doing it. And if it's not, then it's time to take a step back and, is this, do I need to change my why? I guess it comes back to that constant like self-appraisal and just checking in with yourself about why you're doing things before you get lost in the process and, end up flatlining if your why wasn't strong enough for you to do that. So yeah, it's just real important to constantly remember why you're doing something and if that's still enough reason for you.
It's perfect because whether you're questioning yourself why once a year or whether you're questioning yourself why multiple times a year, as long as you're questioning yourself why and making sure that you're doing it for a reason, and then from there you can gauge whether that's a positive reason, a negative reason, whatever sort of reason. But again, you need to be checking in with yourself, as you said, to some level of frequency, because I think a lot of people out there, a lot of our Kiwi millennials out there, don't have the self-awareness to check in with themselves. So they won't even set a resolution. If you're not setting a resolution, you better be checking in with yourself multiple times a year or during the year at some stage. And that's why the resolution's so big, because a lot of people don't check in multiple times a year. So they need like a one big event to sort that out. But just have some self-awareness to really ask yourself, what is my intention? Why am I doing this? And then like have that conversation within yourself. And just on the your why changing over time, like an interesting example would be going to university. So like when you're leaving school in your final year of school and you're sorting out your university shit, you may have a reason that you want to go to university. Like for many, that reason might be society tells me I need to have a degree, or my parents tell me that I need to go to university. Or in another instance, it's because I really want to learn about this and I want to progress myself in this career field. But then like each year of the university, the why is highly likely to change, because you might be at university because your parents told you to go to university, and during university, because you're self-aware, because you ask yourself, why am I at university? You might learn more about yourself and realize that you're only at university because your parents told you to go to university, and you don't actually like university. And then you can, make changes based upon that. Or, flip side, you're at university because your parents told you to go to university, and you're like, oh, I don't really like this, blah, blah, blah. And then you ask yourself why, and you realize, I actually really enjoyed this topic, and so I'm going to go all in because that topic makes me intrigued. I'm interested in that topic. I can see a really cool career path down that kind of avenue. That's why I want to pursue that specific avenue. So for a lot of young Kiwis who are might be starting university soon, why are you going to university? Why aren't you going to university as well? Why aren't you going to university? Oh, because my family can't afford university. Or because all these people, no one in my family's gone to university before. So why can't you go to university? Why aren't you going to university? Because I know that I want to do this, this, and this, and that university is not the best place for me to do that. But the worst place to be in will be to be going to university not knowing why the fuck you're going to university, or to be not going to university and not knowing, what you're actually doing otherwise. And then throughout that university period, 3, 4, 5 years, like definitely a good idea is to continuously check in with yourself of Why am I studying this degree? Why am I having fun, or why am I not having fun? You know, why am I struggling? Why am I performing really well? Whatever it is, ask yourself why.
Yeah, I think that the other thing with the why asking is you need to be honest with yourself. Like, no one can shame you for wanting to do something or tell you that it's wrong. You know, it's your life and your decision why you want to do something. You know, it's nice to do stuff for other people and your parents and expectation or society or whatever. But at the end of the day, they're not living your life. And if you're miserable and you're still trying to do it and you're not asking yourself, why am I doing it? Then there's a real issue. And the people around you obviously don't care about you enough, to let you allow you to ask yourself the question, why are you doing this? And allowing you to answer that question. And you're allowed to be, it's a time to be selfish and do the things you want to do and ask yourself, why am I doing this? And because it makes me happy, that's cool. There's really enough reason, but you need to develop that why into a goal orientated why, and as why am I doing this? To achieve this, or to help society. But no one, I think the key point that I'm trying to bring across is that no one can take that ability away from you to ask yourself why, and no one can shame you for the answer you give to when you're saying why about something. People can, investigate it and sort of, try and flesh out more of a reason to why you're doing something. But at the end of the day, it is your why and it is your reason, and that's all that really matters.
Definitely need to have some level of self-awareness to be able to suss that idea out. And it's also it's a weird mix of being selfish and to be selfless, you need to be selfish. Because you can't give anything to other people if you haven't specifically asked yourself, why am I doing this? So if your parents are going to be a whole lot happier if you're going to university because that's what you want to do and that's what makes you happy, and you're going to do a far better job at university if you're enjoying it instead of, it's just because my parents told me to do it. But if you are selfish and you ask yourself, why am I going to university? Yeah, because I fucking love learning about this topic. I want to have a career in this, bada bing, bada boom. You suss that idea out. Then you can be selfless in other areas and, give your parents what they want in other areas of life. Or because you are selfish in that instant, you basically told your parents, I'm not going to university because you told me to go to university because you want me to go to university. I'm going to university because I want to go to university, and a byproduct of that is you feeling satisfied in whatever weird way. It's a fucking weird idea. But you feeling satisfied because I got put through university.
Yeah, it's a weird situation.
Well, even just the idea of satisfying other people, satisfying the ambitions of other people, it's fucking ridiculous.
Mm. But if that's really what you want to do, though, you need to know yourself. That's what you want to do. You can never be doing something simply for them. It needs to be because you want to do it for them. But that's it's getting a lot really wordy at the moment.
It started getting wordy when we started dropping why. Why
not, man? Why?
Oh, fucking definitely. Do you have any other than why not? Because why not is a fantastic kind of motivational idea as well. Like, if you're going to take a risk, why not? If you're like, if you're going to do it, why not do it? What do you got to lose? You might not look as cool to your friends. You might not have as much money as your friends. You might not satisfy your parents. Your parents might be weirdly disappointed in you. If that's all that's stopping you, then you definitely need to go ahead with whatever you're doing, because fuck them.
Whoa. Yeah,
do you have any other like specific ideas on the topic?
Nah, I just had an example. Just yeah, like when you move overseas and people are like, why did you leave your country to come to this country? You know, besides obvious reasons like war and like refugees and stuff for a better future. You know, people are like, why did you leave beautiful New Zealand to come to, you know, the other side of the world and live in this cold, wet place? Why not? I just say, why not? Why wouldn't I come? It's an opportunity, you know. It's something I've wanted to do. I wanted to travel, fulfill, you know, that part of my life. So why not, motherfuckers? Why not?
And it's like, and it's always so abrupt, like, because if you say why not, it's like the conversation like dies, and you're like, you can feel like it's like you're giving them an attitude sort of thing.
Yeah, well, like you're
It's
flipping
like,
it back
it's,
on them. Like, why did you
yeah,
ask the question? Yeah, it's like, do you think it wasn't a good idea? Do you not like the place that you live in? You know, I'm just saying. A lot of time I go, have you guys been to New Zealand? And they say no, and then I'm just like, well, there we go.
but then like again, like getting back to the why, one of the reasons I had to leave New Zealand is like you got to put yourself, and this is something we've touched on so much, so we won't dwell on it. But why Chile, for example? Well, it's a fairly like ridiculous place to put yourself in and see if you can survive. Like, that's my why. I want to see like what I'm capable of as a human, and if I can, like, if you throw me in the deep end of the pool, can I swim? That's the basis of a lot of situations that I want to put myself in the future, is based on the idea of like, if you chuck me in the deep end of the pool, do I survive or do I drown? And so many countries out there, like so many traveling opportunities, they're shallow ends of the pool. Like, whatever it is, like I won't like drop people in it by naming like tourist destinations or countries, but for me the whole experience is based around, if you put me in a weird spot, if you put me in a country that is going to challenge me and is going to be a situation that I'm going to have to like go through some adversity, going to have to deal with some fucked up shit, going to have to like have those days where you're like, what on earth am I doing? Those are mandatory requirements for me. Like, if everything's honkadory 100% of the time, then you're in the shallow end. Then you're not like seeing what you are capable of as a human being. But if you put yourself in the deep end, you learn something. And of course there's a reason, there's value in leveling up. Like, you've got to go from put yourself in the deep end of a half a meter deep pool. It's very different from like, this is an absolute ludicrous metaphor. So if you've got different sized pools, you've got your school pool, which the shallow end was a quarter of a meter and the deep end was a meter. It's going to be a lot different from being put in the deep end of a primary school pool to an Olympic diving pool where suddenly the deep end of the pool is like 12 meters. So you've got to find a deep end of a pool that suits you as a human being. And if you're the type of human being who doesn't give a fuck, you're going straight to that deep end of the pool for the Olympic diving pool, and you're really putting yourself in the shit and seeing what you can do. But like whatever way suits you as a human, happy days. But you're only going to learn about what you're capable of if you put yourself in those uncomfortable positions to find out like what you can actually do when adversity strikes. When you need to survive, what are you going to do? That's some Bear Grylls shit right there.
Yeah. Thank you, Matua Bear Grylls.
Call me Matua Moa.
Matua Moa. I think, yeah, that's pretty much it, man.
You said. Wait, go carry on.
Wait, no, what were you? I lost my train of thought.
I was gonna lead you into your quote for the day, but if you got something else.
Oh yeah, no, I was heading that way, but yeah, I mean, feel free to give me an intro.
I don't know if it's gonna be better than you finding your way there, but big bonds.
Yo.
Is there an animal that is native to like the Pacific Islands? Whatever Pacific Island it is.
I don't think so. Maybe some like shellfish, some like fish probably is the easiest to find. The rest are like, because birds got to travel from island to island, and well, pigs were introduced, I'm pretty sure, and chicken. Chicken's probably been around for a while. I don't even know, because anything that they got there would have had to been brought there, so. It's not like a big ass landmass like in America or Europe where animals, or Asia where big animals could roam free. So I don't know if there's many specific things except for maybe fish, maybe a couple of birds.
The moa ain't making the trek from Aotearoa to Samoa.
Yeah, not anytime soon.
The moa and the Haast eagle are the most slept on native animals. Like I know. New Zealanders don't even know like what the fuck was going on back in the day when the moa and the Haast eagle were ruling the land.
Man. Don't fuck up a kangaroo, bro. Fuck out of here.
Murder a kangaroo.
Anyway, I'll bring it.
That's my introduction, my lead into your quote of the week. Just dropping some, opinions about the moa. That's why they, on the streets of Papatoetoe, they call me Matua Moa.
No one's ever called you Matua Moa.
Fuck.
Stop trying to boost your street cred on the podcast.
They will now. Everyone out there, when I'm back in the hood, please refer to me as Matua Moa, or I won't respond.
Okay, Matua Moa. Anyway, I was just saying, so to tie it all up nicely, find fulfillment in whatever it is you're doing. If you can't find anything you like about it, maybe find something new. Make sure you know why you're doing what you're doing. If it's not enough reason, you'll know what to do. But make sure you not constantly, but often lost it. What's that? Make sure you're often self-appraising yourself and about why you're doing what you're doing before you get caught up in a trap. Like Scott said, when you're climbing up the mountain, head down. Before you know, you'll be at the top. But anyway, the quote that I want to talk about was...
Hey, excuse me, it's Matua Moa. Didn't you catch it?
My bad, Matua Moa. Anyway, the quote was actually, you always have something to offer, If you never have anything to give, you still have your time, And that's a priceless resource which everyone can offer.
Wait, hold up. Can you repeat that just one more time for Matua Moa?
if you feel like you have nothing to offer, you always have something. You can always give your time.
Damn. I don't know. You could probably do with a better name than Big Bonds, considering they call me Matua Moa, but
That came up
because
there in
like
like the last 2 minutes, bro.
whatever name you have needs to be worthy of such a quote. You've always got time to give, folks, and we'll give Big Bonds a week or two to suss out his name. We'll give him the benefit of time. I've got time to give, so I give him my time. Hopefully
Get
you
out of
can
here, man.
hopefully you can meditate on these thoughts of the Silly Kiwi Millennial podcast. We'll be back soon enough with a couple of updated thoughts on how life is trucking along after we've like meditated on this motivation.
After we go reassess our whys.
After we go reassess our whys, indeed.
Become
Big
wise
bonds.
guys.
Oh shit. Silly Kiwi Millennial podcast, figuring out the whys with the wise guys. You know the deal.